This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow.
Welcome back, everyone, to our post-BiggerBash discussion. We have more interviews for you, and let's just get right to it.
And if you're lost about what we're talking about, go back and listen to part 1 just before this, and then join us in part 2.
Hi, this is Don.
Hi, I'm Brady. Nice to meet you.
So, just tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got to Bigger City, and how have you found it so far? Or BiggerBash, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a 29-year-old chubby gay guy living in Los Angeles. I was at Club Chub in Los Angeles, and I won a raffle ticket to attend. And I had never been to any Bigger City event before. And I figured it was probably best to start with a shorter and smaller one than Bigger Vegas, which always seemed very overwhelming.
The last Bigger Vegas was my first time. It was a lot. It was in a good way, but it was a lot.
Yeah, really throwing you in the deep end there.
Seriously.
So,
I'm curious, how have you found it so far? And was there something you were most looking forward to, or something that you were nervous about coming out for your first event?
something I was nervous about is that while I had people I knew at the event, I was coming by myself, really. So, on the one hand, I was able to get my own room, partially because I saved money on having the ticket won in a raffle. But, I didn't have necessarily a group that I was with that I could fall back on, whenever I needed downtime.
Yeah.
But what's been nice is that being able to just chat with anyone with a badge on, just obviously in the hospitality areas and the areas where we're all sort of concentrated. But even last night, before the pool party, I was just grabbing some quick dinner at McDonald's, and I saw some other big guys with the badges on, and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit with
my people.
Yes, exactly. Which, I think the badge is important because, you don't want to come up to people and just make assumptions like, hey, you're my people. Who are you? Why are you talking to me? So
it's funny that you've come the exact way that Dan recommended people come, which is don't come attached to a group. Know some people that you can touch base with from time to time to give you a breathing zone, and then be free to wander however the heart or body should desire.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've been talking a little bit about video games just now.
Yes.
And I was intrigued. I was listening to some of you were telling me a little bit about your views and your experiences with bigger characters in video games and all that sort of stuff.
So I have a background in working in both visual effects for film and television, as well as video games. I feel like on the podcast, there's been talks of meaningful representation in something like video games with fat characters. And just from an insider perspective, it's surprising. There are some things that people just don't even think about that have this domino effect that really affects what kind of representation is realized in this industry.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. So, for instance, in video games where it's 3D modeled, a lot of the animation is pulled from what are called motion capture libraries. Motion capture is when you have someone dress up in a suit with like little white balls on it, little sensors, and they sort of do a physical act out of different actions. If you've ever seen behind the scenes for like the Avatar movies,
where they're wearing those crazy green outfits with little dots all over them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's motion capture. That's sort of the backbone of a lot of animation within video games. Both
a lot of those performers going on strike right now and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really not a lot of fat performers in that space, which has a knock-on effect of fat people move differently than more straight-sized people. What that means is when it comes to animating a character, whether they're collecting fresh motion capture data from an actor or they're combing from a backlog, there isn't much realistic movement for people that aren't model actor types.
Yeah.
What happens is there's a fat character that moves sort of like a straight sized person in an inflatable sumo suit.
Yep.
It's because they literally don't have the animation reference for someone that has a bigger body. There are a couple reasons for that. Motion capture suits are not built for fat people.
It's weird though, because like they just need the reference points on the body as it moves, right? So
Yeah.
in theory, they could just make a bigger suit for a bigger person, but I haven't heard of anyone doing that.
Yeah, it's because people don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where there's sort of an apathy to it. It's not malice. It's not necessarily like they are deliberately excluding bigger people, fatter people. It's why change the system? It's been working so far.
And the result of it is you end up getting people that have to play fat people that had just been playing a mythological monster, right? So it's sort of like, fat people are sort of on the same footing as Godzilla in that world, in that you don't have Godzilla to mocap himself. You don't have any fat people to mocap themselves. So we are now mythological monsters like Godzilla being stumped around being played by skinny people.
I mean, yeah, fat people are already mythological monsters if you go into Erewhon. But there's a lot of things in the industry, both in sort of how it treats its own workers and how it exports products to people via video games or, movies and television.
And since it's one of the main venues main platforms that people sort of entertain themselves with nowadays, like getting some exposure to fat bodies through video games could be very beneficial to all of us in general. So as you move forward in the video game industry, we're looking to you for representation. Carry us forward.
I'll do my best. I'll see what I can do. Sometimes the answer is just getting people into decision-making roles that think about this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
If I could even pivot for a little bit, another conversation we were having, I mentioned that this kind of apathetic approach towards, fat acceptance extends to the people within the industry as well as people who are viewing the products you make. Yeah, whenever in film and TV or in video games, a movie is wrapped up or a game, oftentimes the workers will get what's called crew swag.
Yeah. Gifts to say thank you to people who helped them make the production and give a little memory of the experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It usually comes in the form of, t-shirts, hoodies, things like that.
And always generously in size extra large, so all of us can enjoy them.
Oh my God. Well, at a previous job I was working at in the visual effects industry, I would be in charge of organizing crew swag. I feel like I was the only one who would think about extended sizing sometimes beyond, a 2XL. Part of how the process works is you have to organize the printing through, websites like Custom Ink or Broken Arrow, which are, websites that help you print out t-shirts, hoodies, things like that with custom designs. Part of that process is you have to choose the shirt or the hoodie or what have you that's being printed on. They have a range of products, options, different fits. The biggest I've ever seen on any of those sites is a 6XL.
Which is actually bigger than I've found when I was looking, so that's impressive.
And 6XL was rare.
Yeah, it's painfully rare. And it's the modern age. That's not necessarily big enough either.
No, exactly. Being the fat person at the studio that was thinking about this, it felt like I was putting in the effort to find larger sizes that other people, again, not malice. They weren't necessarily maliciously thinking, I'm going to exclude everyone else. No, it was just, this is a good option. I think this will look good for most people. It goes up to like a 2X, 3X, maybe a 4X if we're lucky. Yeah, they just move forward with it.
My roommate's closet for a little while was a resume of all the video games I'd ever worked on because he got all my extra larges.
Right, yeah. And the reason I bring this up is because, in talking about kind of media representation, in spaces like, video games, visual effects, CGI. Sometimes it feels like if there's a lack of progress, it's not necessarily a big bad person who's got a master plan to oppress the fat people. It's apathy. It's systemic apathy of, I don't need to think about that. I have other things I need to worry about. This isn't a priority.
So apathy is definitely one of the things we have to fight in the future. Brady, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Anything else you want to send out to the world for podcast listeners to listen to?
Don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
And we are at BiggerBash in Las Vegas, and I'm talking to Austin. How you doing, Austin?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing good. What got you to the event? What made you sign up for the event? What's the thing that got you here? Or are you a veteran of these events? You go to all of them anyway?
I never want to claim myself to be a veteran. I have been to a few. I've been a member of Bigger City for not the full 25 years, but maybe 15. So I've been to 2 Vegases before this, and this being a slightly different, even smaller event, actually had some special appeal because it's a little bit, different than what you would maybe expect from a bigger Vegas that has so many more events and things going on during it. So I find this to be a really relaxing one.
Do you remember your first bigger anything, or your first Chub Chaser event? What was that like? Was it daunting?
My first event, I had been to some TBRUs in Dallas, which that's its own thing, of course. But that's still an event that I had a lot of fun at. I was really I had started going to events when I was 18. So
wow, that is precocious.
I was eager to join the community. I know where my people are. So I had some fun at those before, but it was really my first bigger Vegas in 2014, and that was crazy.
I sometimes compare being at one of these events like dating on a reality show. I mean, there's definitely, I'm here in Vegas, I'm here to have fun.
Yeah.
But then there's also I'd kind of like to get my paws full of honey. And that can be weird coming from really any city where, the Chub Chaser scene is whatever it is in your hometown. But then you come here and it's like, well, it's an endless buffet of Chubs and Chasers.
The event, this one even, but any of them really, is whatever you want it to be. If there's something that you're looking for, you're going to find it. That can be pretty daunting to think about. But what I've found, especially more and more coming to these, is that really everybody is friendly. Even if you're not interested in each other or there's not mutual attraction, you're all here for the same thing. So there's already some commonality, and that makes it easier to introduce yourself to people and actually talk. So it can even be good practice for, going back out into the scare quotes real world. So maybe, if you do have a bar in your area or some kind of dating scene, to get some practice in.
Yeah.
And I've even made some lifelong friendships here as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. As you come back, you see more and more people year after year, and you're like, oh, hey.
I do try to, whether consciously or unconsciously, I try to do something a little bit different or try something new that I haven't done at previous events. And this time it has been actually introducing myself to more people, because I can be kind of reserved until I start talking at length about anything.
Can I get personal? Is that okay? Or I guess you can tell me to stop if you don't want to go there.
Let's go there, but hold on. Should we have a safe word?
You would say stop.
Okay.
Stop works really well. How has it been, your journey as, do you identify as Chub or Chaser? You Chub or both?
Say I identify as Chaser. On my profile, I'm listed as Chub for Chub because I'm, 6'2" and 340 pounds. Corn-fed is real. But, and I'm, Michael can bleep this. I love being a faggot. So
yeah,
containing multitudes is my favorite thing.
I want to hear more about that.
Do you?
I want to hear more about I love being a faggot.
That's been kind of my journey over, I guess the last 10 years. So really growing up, going to events, nothing is permanent. So I have been a different person at different events, partly because, I went through my 20s and now I'm in my 30s here at events. So I guess even without my own choice, I have been different. And that's why I've tried different things each time too.
How have you been different?
How have I been different? I think in general about queer culture 10 years ago, painting your nails wasn't really that common. And I know a lot more guys do that now. This is a time that when I come out here, I want to be a little bit more outspoken or flamboyant, because if I can't, show my lisp here, where else can I do it?
Yeah. I mean, the way I'm hearing that is that it's important for you to not be bound by gender stereotypes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of people since COVID, maybe you've gotten introduced to Alok Vaid-Menon or other trans writers and activists, even the work of Dr. Devin Price, who wrote Laziness Does Not Exist and Unmasking Autism. I guess I have kind of had an explosion more recently, not through my exploration of queer identity, but through my neurodiverse identity. But it's all the same thing because that's who I am, and everything pulls on itself. So that's why I like to be more expressive when I'm here, because it's not necessarily that I come out to Vegas to do drag or to have my feminine fantasy or anything like that, but more so that those are parts of myself, and I like to have little ways of expressing that, whether it be through the colors that I wear, the accessories, or even just the candor in my speaking.
Yeah. I mean, something that I always say about these events is that coming to any Chub Chaser event, be it Bigger Vegas or whatever, it's like it puts you in an environment where being gay is normal and being fat is sexy.
Oh, yeah.
And that is never true anywhere else. I mean, maybe one of those. Like, if I live in West Hollywood, because gay is normal in West Hollywood. I mean, it's like, oh, honey, look at the straight people holding hands. Isn't that cute? But fat, not normal.
I think it might be common in the Chub Chaser community, but oftentimes my husband and I will get, mistaken for brothers, or, sometimes even father and son before people realize that we're a couple.
What part of the country do you live in?
Oh, we're from Oklahoma. Oh, it's not that bad. I mean, there's so much we can say about politics of the area that you're from, but there are different kinds of community, or even different examples of queer community even there. So it's not always glamorous. In fact, sometimes it looks a lot more like simple community care rather than anything extravagant like an event might be. But sometimes even the woods are a great place to go when you want to have some gay sex in the woods.
Yeah.
There are campgrounds all over the place.
So tell me about gay sex in the woods, gay sex in nature. Like there's a huge event in the Bay Area called Lazy Bear Weekend that is hugely popular. The gay community rurally, the gay community urban, like those are very different. And it sounds like you straddle both of those.
Oh yeah. I might have grown up in rural areas, but I was probably more of a, city kid, if you want to think of it that way. There is a different way that you see some things. Conservative, while yes, it's a term, that's also a way of life, being a bit reserved. So sometimes that's kind of what you experience. It's not that there isn't anything happening there. It's just that it may not be as out loud or in public. That being said, where I live, we have an annual Pride every year, and we have drag shows once a month. So again, there's definitely community out there. It might just be smaller pockets, which feeling like you're a satellite has some frustrations to it, but then that's why I enjoy these events.
Yeah. I wonder, and I really don't know, is in smaller communities, particularly smaller rural communities, is the gay community, the queer community tighter?
It quite honestly depends, because I know that, in places, more city hubs, if you're thinking like Oklahoma City or Dallas, there's most certainly communities there. I can't speak to those areas specifically other than just being a visitor occasionally, but I find that sometimes it's more that the community becomes the found family, the people that you watch Drag Race with on the weekend, or you just get together to gossip about whatever else is going on at work, or what you're getting down to that you don't get to talk to people at work about because, well, they're busy talking about what non-queer people talk about.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
Yeah, I definitely had relationships with straight men and other people who, you know, it might not even just be surface level conversation, but you really are speaking from a mechanical or a highlight perspective rather than considering some deeper implications of things. And sometimes that's just because who has the time to go that deep? But to bring it back to the event, I do find that this is a really special place for that. I can certainly info dump on various different topics, each more niche than the last.
Well, and I think there's an environment for that here. Like there's somebody who's into your niche.
Oh, yes. I've made friends just because we were like, oh, hey, this song. Oh, but do you like this song? Or I was at karaoke and someone sang Pink Pony Club, and a good third of the bar was already intimately familiar with Chapel Roan. And I knew that those were some of my people.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a way to a bridge across the divide.
Yes, yeah, you can kind of feel out where you might want to go next, and that's where that flexibility that we talked about comes back in. Because if I hadn't had that moment of seeing, this person, and this person know all the words to this song, I should say hi to them later, or
I love that.
Go buy them a drink or something.
Yeah. As a way of where it gets beyond just like, oh, he's hot.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good. And you've talked about this on the podcast when talking about fleshing out your dating profile. That's kind of a natural or subtle way of kind of learning about somebody. But it's also good when they put those kinds of things on their profile, too, to talk about what they're interested in or what their stances are. Because you see somebody cute that you like, you might find them on your grid for whatever app you're using, and then you can see, oh, this person's, interested in, these things, this kind of music. Oh, it seems like we have something in common, or maybe it's just a wave hello.
Yeah, I find it a great way to feel like, do I want to pursue this? Mm-hmm. Or honestly, if I know I want to pursue it because they're hot as hell, like I have something to say besides, oh, you're hot as hell.
Right.
I have something more interesting than you are very attractive and now it's your turn.
What do you mean, Dan? Woof works for me every time.
Someone explain why bears say woof.
I Googled it one time, but I forgot it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Austin. I really appreciate it.
So thank you to everybody who volunteered to be our interview victims. I hope we weren't too rough on you and exposed too many of your deepest.
Some people like it rough.
Deepest, darkest secrets. But seriously, though, thank you for sharing and taking time out of your con to sit down with us. And hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime in the future as we meet some more people at Bigger Vegas.
Bigger Vegas is right around the corner, baby.
In 2025, everybody.
Yeah, they're actually selling fast.
Registration is open now.
I would say actually that is a tip for this episode.
We have a tip this episode.
Yeah. So Bigger Vegas registration is open. As of right now, the tickets are still available, but it's been selling faster than ever. So if you have not purchased your pass, I would encourage you to go and register biggervegas.com. And we will see you there, or be square.
Yeah, or round. They tend to be, at least for BiggerBash, they were transferable up to about a month in advance. So if you get it now and eventually you're like, oh no, I can't go, you potentially could sell it to somebody else, and not necessarily waste your money on it. But it is advisable to get on board early because
I'm on the website right now. This is we're on in September 15th right now, but Royal Flush VIP is down to its limited final inventory.
Yeah.
For that price range or overall?
I think overall because to be able to take care of VIPs, you have to have a smaller number. Also, rooms are selling really quickly. The first rooms are at the lowest price. The longer you wait, the higher the room goes until they're sold out. And then there's the overflow hotels.
Yes.
So, you got to make a move.
Sorry to anyone who's like in the car, like, oh my God, I was like veering off the road.
Yeah. All right. I'll do it. Trevor, if people want to reach out to us and ask which rooms we're staying in at the Bigger Vegas next year,
Michael,
where can they tell us?
We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Also, Patreon. I say Patreon. Patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. Support us there. Support us everywhere. That's it.
Baby.
Support us on a fox. Support us with a fox.
Maybe we've flashed forward. At the bottom of the screen, it says Bigger Vegas 2025. We're at the pool. The music is at a reasonable level. You can hear me say this. Oh no, but actually the music isn't on yet, so watch out.